Have you ever walked into a room and felt the tension before anyone said a word? Have you ever sensed the shift in someone's energy, the weight of their unspoken pain, the subtle change in their voice that nobody else seemed to notice? And have you ever been told, perhaps by someone who loves you, perhaps by someone who doesn't understand you, that you're too sensitive, that you feel too much, that you care too deeply? If you have, then you know what it means to carry the gift and the burden of emotional intelligence. You are not weak because you feel everything. You are not fragile because the world's chaos shakes you. You are not broken because you need moments of stillness in a world that never stops screaming. You are emotionally intelligent, and that means you experience life at a depth most people will never reach. This isn't a flaw. This is your nature, and your soul's craving for inner stability isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of profound wisdom. Emotionally intelligent women don't seek stability because they're running from life. They seek it because they're fully present to life, feeling every note of its symphony, every tremor of its earthquake, every whisper of its wind. They seek stability because without it, the weight of the world's emotions would drown them. They seek it because they know that to give deeply, to love fully, to live authentically, they must first have solid ground beneath their feet. This is your journey. This is your story. And if you've been searching for someone to tell you that your sensitivity matters, that your depth has purpose, that your need for peace is sacred, let this be that moment. You are about to discover why you feel the way you do, and more importantly, how to transform that awareness into unshakable inner strength. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the tension before anyone said a word? Have you ever sensed the shift in someone's energy, the weight of their unspoken pain, the subtle change in their voice that nobody else seemed to notice? And have you ever been told, perhaps by someone who loves you, perhaps by someone who doesn't understand you, that you're too sensitive, that you feel too much, that you care too deeply? If you have, then you know what it means to carry the gift and the burden of emotional intelligence. You are not weak because you feel everything. You are not fragile because the world's chaos shakes you. You are not broken because you need moments of stillness in a world that never stops screaming. You are emotionally intelligent, and that means you experience life at a depth most people will never reach. This isn't a flaw. This is your nature, and your soul's craving for inner stability isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of profound wisdom. Emotionally intelligent women don't seek stability because they're running from life. They seek it because they're fully present to life, feeling every note of its symphony, every tremor of its earthquake, every whisper of its wind. They seek stability because without it, the weight of the world's emotions would drown them. They seek it because they know that to give deeply, to love fully, to live authentically, they must first have solid ground beneath their feet. This is your journey. This is your story. And if you've been searching for someone to tell you that your sensitivity matters, that your depth has purpose, that your need for peace is sacred, let this be that moment. You are about to discover why you feel the way you do, and more importantly, how to transform that awareness into unshakable inner strength. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the tension before anyone said a word? Have you ever sensed the shift in someone's energy, the weight of their unspoken pain, the subtle change in their voice that nobody else seemed to notice? And have you ever been told, perhaps by someone who loves you, perhaps by someone who doesn't understand you, that you're too sensitive, that you feel too much, that you care too deeply? If you have, then you know what it means to carry the gift and the burden of emotional intelligence. You are not weak because you feel everything. You are not fragile because the world's chaos shakes you. You are not broken because you need moments of stillness in a world that never stops screaming. You are emotionally intelligent, and that means you experience life at a depth most people will never reach. This isn't a flaw. This is your nature, and your soul's craving for inner stability isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of profound wisdom. Emotionally intelligent women don't seek stability because they're running from life. They seek it because they're fully present to life, feeling every note of its symphony, every tremor of its earthquake, every whisper of its wind. They seek stability because without it, the weight of the world's emotions would drown them. They seek it because they know that to give deeply, to love fully, to live authentically, they must first have solid ground beneath their feet. This is your journey. This is your story. And if you've been searching for someone to tell you that your sensitivity matters, that your depth has purpose, that your need for peace is sacred, let this be that moment. You are about to discover why you feel the way you do, and more importantly, how to transform that awareness into unshakable inner strength. Your need for stability isn't a weakness or a limitation. It's your nervous system crying out for what it desperately needs to function. When you feel everything, when you're constantly processing not just your own emotions, but the emotional data of everyone around you, your system becomes overwhelmed. It's like a computer running too many programs at once, overheating, struggling to keep up. From a purely biological perspective, your nervous system operates in states rest and digest, or fight and flight. When you're constantly absorbed absorbing emotional input, interpreting relational dynamics, navigating other people's needs. Your system rarely gets to rest. It stays activated, vigilant, scanning for danger or distress. Over time, this creates dysregulation, a state where your baseline becomes anxiety rather than calm, where peace feels foreign and chaos feels familiar. But this goes deeper than biology. Psychologically, attachment theory teaches us that human beings need a secure base, a place of safety from which we can explore the world and to which we can return. In childhood, this was ideally a parent or caregiver. As adults, we must become this for ourselves. The emotionally intelligent woman craves stability because she's searching for that secure base within herself, a ground that doesn't shift beneath her feet when the world around her erupts in chaos. And then there's the spiritual dimension, the part that psychology and biology can only point toward but never fully capture. Your soul, that essential, eternal part of you, knows something that your mind sometimes forgets. You are not meant to be tossed endlessly by the waves of circumstance and others' emotions. You are meant to be rooted, grounded, anchored in something deeper than the surface chaos. Think of a tree in a storm. The branches whip and bend, the leaves are torn away, the wind howls through its limbs. But the tree survives because of what you cannot see, its root system, deep underground, holding firm in the earth. This is what inner stability is. It's not about controlling the storm. It's not about stopping the wind or commanding the branches to be still. It's about having roots so deep that no storm can uproot you. The world will always be chaotic. People will always be unpredictable. Life will always contain loss and uncertainty and pain. You cannot control these external realities, and the emotionally intelligent woman already knows this truth intimately. What you're seeking isn't control over the outside world. That's an exhausting and impossible task. What you're seeking is sanctuary within yourself, a still point in the turning world, an inner fortress that remains peaceful, even when everything external is turbulent. There's a profound difference between external stability and internal stability. External stability is an illusion. No amount of perfect circumstances, controlled environments, or managed relationships will ever provide lasting peace because external conditions are always changing. Internal stability, however, is achievable. It's the cultivation of an inner state that remains centered regardless of outer conditions. This isn't about avoiding growth or refusing to feel. It's not about building walls or becoming numb. It's about creating within yourself a foundation so solid that you can feel everything without being destroyed by it. You can love deeply without losing yourself. You can be present to pain without drowning in it. You can engage with the world's chaos without becoming chaotic yourself. This is why your soul craves stability, because it remembers what you've forgotten, that peace is your natural state, and you're simply trying to find your way home. For too long, you've been told that your sensitivity is something to apologize for, to hide, to overcome. You've been made to feel that your emotional depth is a liability in a world that values toughness, and then wider that your awareness is a burden in a culture that celebrates emotional numbness disguised as strength. But what if everything you've been told is backwards? What if your sensitivity isn't your weakness? It's your power. Throughout history, the women who held emotional wisdom were revered. They were the priestesses who could read the unseen, the oracles who sensed what was coming, the healers who knew which wounds needed tending before they festered. In indigenous cultures, the sensitive ones, the sensitive, were considered medicine people, their ability to feel deeply seen as a sacred gift that served the entire community. They weren't told to toughen up. They were honored for their capacity to bridge the visible and invisible worlds. Your sensitivity gives you a strategic advantage that most people will never possess. While others stumble through relationships, making the same mistakes repeatedly, you see the patterns. You understand the dynamics. You recognize when someone is operating from their wound rather than their wisdom. This awareness allows you to navigate complexity with grace, to avoid disasters others can't see coming, to build connections that actually nourish rather than deplete. Your emotional intelligence is your intuition speaking. It's the voice that whispers, "Something's not right here," before your logical mind has gathered the evidence. It's the knowing that tells you who's trustworthy and who's performing. It's the sense that guides you away from danger and toward alignment. In a world full of deception and superficiality, your ability to feel the truth beneath the surface is not just valuable, it's essential. But here's where the real strength lives, not in feeling everything, but in learning to choose what you do with what you feel. There's a crucial difference between being reactive and being responsive. Reactive is when emotion controls you, when you're swept away by every feeling that arises, when someone else's boss's mood determines your entire day. Responsive is when you feel fully, but choose consciously. When you honor your emotions without being enslaved by them. When you allow yourself to be moved, but not destroyed. Consider Maria, a woman who spent years believing her sensitivity made her fragile. She cried easily. She felt others' pain as if it were her own. She avoided conflict because confrontation overwhelmed her nervous system. Then something shifted. She realized that her sensitivity had given her an extraordinary capacity for leadership. She could sense what her team needed before they asked. Create environments where people felt safe enough to innovate. Navigate difficult conversations with a nuance that built trust rather than destroying it. Her sensitivity hadn't changed, but her relationship to it had transformed entirely. She stopped seeing it as a flaw and started wielding it as the gift it had always been. The shadow side emerges when your sensitivity becomes self-sacrifice, when you're so attuned to others that you disappear, when your empathy turns into enabling, when your gift becomes your cage. But this isn't a failure of your sensitivity. It's a misunderstanding of boundaries, something you're learning to reclaim. You are not too much. You never were. You are exactly enough, and your depth is exactly what this shallow world needs. You've probably felt it your entire life, this persistent sense that you don't quite fit, not because something is wrong with you, but because the world around you operates at a frequency that feels fundamentally different from your own. You're trying to have deep conversations in a culture addicted to small talk. You're seeking meaning in a society obsessed with distraction. You're craving authentic connection in an era of performed perfection. The world wasn't built for your depth, and this mismatch exhausts you in ways that are hard to explain to people who don't feel what you feel. Modern culture demands that you be strong, which usually means suppress your emotions. It tells you to get over it, as if depth of feeling were a phase rather than your nature. It celebrates emotional unavailability as independence and mistakes numbness for resilience. The message is clear and relentless. Your sensitivity is inconvenient. Your emotions are excessive. Your need for meaningful connection is unrealistic. The pace of contemporary life alone feels violent to your nervous system. Everything moves fast. Conversations, decisions, relationship, careers. There's no time to process, to integrate, to simply be. You're expected to consume information at lightning speed, respond to messages instantly, keep up with endless demands while maintaining a curated image of effortless capability. But you can't rush depth. You can't force integration. Your soul needs time that the world refuses to give you. Social media amplifies this disconnection exponentially. You watch people perform their lives while you're actually living yours. You see surface level highlight reels and wonder why your inner world feels so complicated by comparison. The comparison trap becomes inescapable. Everyone else seems lighter, easier, less affected. You begin to wonder if something is fundamentally wrong with you for feeling so much in a world that seems to feel so little. In the workplace, your emotional labor goes unrecognized and uncompensated. You're the one managing team morale, sensing when someone is struggling, smoothing over conflicts that others created. To wine team, you wear professional masks that hide your authenticity because vulnerability is punished and emotional honesty is seen as unprofessional. You learn to split yourself, the real you and the acceptable you, and the exhaustion of maintaining this division becomes another weight you carry. And perhaps most painful of all is the isolation, the loneliness of being deeply misunderstood. To you wine teen, of having no one who truly gets what it's like to live in your skin, to experience the world through your heightened awareness. You're surrounded by people yet profoundly alone, and this disconnection makes inner stability feel impossibly distant. While the external world presents its challenges, the battles raging inside you are often far more brutal. You are your own harshest battlefield, where invisible wars are fought every single day, wars that no one else can see, conflicts that leave you exhausted without a single visible wound. There's the perfectionist trap, that relentless voice telling you that your emotional intelligence means you should handle everything flawlessly. You should never lose your temper. You should always know the right thing to say. You should be able to regulate perfectly, respond wisely, show up impeccably. After all, you understand emotions. Shouldn't that mean you've transcended struggling with them? This impossible standard becomes a cage. Every human moment of reactivity becomes evidence of failure. Every time you're overwhelmed becomes proof that you're not as evolved as you should be. You've turned your gift into a weapon against yourself. Then there's the people-pleasing pattern, so deeply ingrained you barely recognize it anymore. Your sensitivity to others' feelings means you can sense their disappointment, their frustration, their needs before they even express them. And because you can sense it, you feel responsible for fixing it. You say yes when you mean no. You accommodate when you want to assert. You shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You've become so skilled at reading what others need that you've forgotten how to ask what you need. Slowly, imperceptibly, imperceptibly. You disappear into the desires and demands of everyone around you, and when you finally look for yourself, you can't remember where you went. The overthinking spiral is perhaps your most familiar companion. After every conversation, you replay it endlessly. Did you say the right thing? Did they seem upset? What did that tone mean? That pause, was it awkward or just natural? You analyze every interaction like a detective searching for clues to some crime you're not even sure happened. Your beautiful capacity for nuanced understanding becomes a prison of rumination. You can't just have an experience. You must dissect it, interpret it, worry about it until the original moment is buried under layers of analysis. And beneath all of this runs the undercurrent of imposter syndrome. Despite your profound emotional intelligence, you doubt yourself constantly. Maybe you're not actually that intuitive. Maybe you're just paranoid. Maybe you're not sensitive. Maybe you're just dramatic. Maybe everyone else has it figured out and you're the only one struggling. You read the books, you do the work, you help everyone else navigate their emotions, yet you still question whether you truly understand anything at all. You feel like a fraud teaching a language you've spoken your entire life. Perhaps most insidious is the guilt cycle. You feel guilty for having needs, guilty for setting boundaries, guilty for prioritizing yourself, guilty for not being endlessly available, guilty for feeling tired of caring, guilty for wanting rest, guilty for being human. You give everyone else permission to be imperfect, to have limits, to need support. Everyone except yourself. The moment you consider putting yourself first, guilt rises like a tide, drowning the impulse before it can fully form. Here's what you need to understand: these patterns didn't develop because you're broken. They developed because you needed them once. They were protection mechanisms, strategies for survival in environments that didn't honor your sensitivity. The perfectionism protected you from criticism. The people-pleasing kept you safe from rejection. The overthinking helped you navigate unpredictable emotional landscapes. The self-doubt kept you humble in spaces that punished confidence. You weren't wrong for developing these patterns, but you also don't need them anymore. There's a particular kind of wound that doesn't come from a single catastrophic event, but from 1,000 small moments of invalidation, accumulated over years until they form a scar across your sense of self. This is the trauma of being chronically, persistently, profoundly misunderstood. Maybe it started in childhood. You were the child who cried too easily, who took things too personally, who couldn't just let it go. Perhaps you were told to stop being so dramatic when you were simply feeling what you felt. Maybe your parents, overwhelmed by their own emotional illiteracy, didn't know what to do with a child who experienced everything so intensely. So they tried to minimize you. You're too sensitive. Stop making such a big deal out of everything. Why can't you be more like your sister? Each dismissal was a message. Your inner world is wrong, excessive, inconvenient. In your relationships, you've known the particular pain of loving people who couldn't meet you at your depth. Partners who called your emotional awareness overthinking. Who accused you of being too much when you simply wanted to connect meaningfully. Who shut down when you tried to have vulnerable conversations, leaving you feeling like your need for intimacy was a burden rather than a gift. You learned to dim your light, to ask for less, to dine, to pretend you needed less connection than you actually did. And each time you abandoned your own needs to keep someone comfortable, you betrayed yourself a little more. Friendships, too, have carried their share of wounds. You've been the friend who showed up fully, who remembered the details of their lives, who held space for their pain, who celebrated their victories as if they were your own. But when you needed that same depth of care returned, many disappeared. They wanted your emotional labor, but not your emotional reality. They were happy to receive your empathy, but uncomfortable when you needed theirs. 19. The one-sided nature of these connections taught you that your feelings were only acceptable when you were using them in service of others. In your family system, you likely became the emotional caretaker, the one who managed everyone's feelings, who kept the peace, who absorbed the dysfunction so others didn't have to feel it. Perhaps you were parentified, forced to be the adult before you'd finished being a child. Your emotional intelligence wasn't celebrated as a gift, it was exploited as a resource. And when you finally reached your limit, when you couldn't hold it all anymore, you were labeled as the problem. Suddenly, you were the one being too sensitive. Again, the one who couldn't handle things, when in reality, you'd been handling everyone else's unprocessed pain for years. Professional environments added their own layer of dismissal. Workplaces that punished authenticity and rewarded emotional suppression. Bosses who saw your empathy as weakness rather than the leadership quality it actually is. Corporate cultures that demanded you check your humanity at the door and perform robotic efficiency. The cumulative effect of all these experiences is complex trauma, not from one incident, but from repeated emotional invalidation over time. Your nervous system learned that being yourself isn't safe. Your body began to store the tension of constantly monitoring, adjusting, hiding, and now, even in safe spaces. Your system remains vigilant, waiting for the next moment of rejection or dismissal. This is not your fault, but it is yours to heal. Here's a truth that might sting at first. Part of you keeps choosing chaos. Not consciously, not deliberately, but in the subterranean places where your patterns live. There's a gravitational pull toward instability that sabotages your stated desire for peace. And this isn't because you're self-destructive or broken. It's because chaos has become the language your nervous system speaks most fluently. The paradox is painful to acknowledge. You consciously crave stability, yet you unconsciously select the turbulent relationship, the dramatic friend, the uncertain situation. You say you want peace, but when things become calm, you feel anxious. Stillness feels wrong. Quiet feels dangerous. Your system, trained in chaos, mistakes peace for the calm before the storm and stays perpetually braced for impact. Psychologically, this is called repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar patterns, even painful ones, because familiarity feels safer than the unknown. If chaos was your childhood normal, then chaos feels like home. It doesn't feel good, but it feels known, and to your nervous system, known equals survivable, even when it's destroying you. There's also the rescuer archetype at play. You're drawn to people and situations you believe you can fix, heal, or save. The emotionally unavailable partner who just needs the right woman to open his heart. The friend in perpetual crisis who depends on your wisdom. The job that's toxic, but surely you can be the one to transform the culture. You're not choosing these situations because you love suffering. You're choosing them because fixing broken things feels like purpose, and perhaps unconsciously, because if you're busy saving everyone else, you don't have to face saving yourself. Beneath many of these patterns lives a subconscious belief so painful you may have never fully articulated it. I don't deserve peace. Perhaps you absorbed this message from a parent who was never at peace themselves. Perhaps life taught you early that good things don't last, so why get comfortable? Perhaps you've internalized the idea that struggle equals worthiness, that you must earn rest through suffering, that peace is something other people get to have, but not you. Your nervous system may also be addicted to the neurochemical cocktail that chaos provides. The adrenaline, the cortisol, the intensity. These chemicals, while harmful long-term, create a kind of aliveness that your system has learned to crave. When life becomes stable, your body misses the chemical rush and unconsciously creates drama to get it back. This isn't moral failure, it's physiological conditioning. But here's the transformative moment. Recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. You're not broken for having developed these adaptations. You're brilliant. Your psyche did exactly what it needed to do to survive the conditions you were in. The fact that you can now see these patterns means you're ready to choose differently. Awareness is the crack where the light gets in, and you've just opened the door. Now we arrive at perhaps the most uncomfortable truth of all. Part of you is afraid of the very stability you seek, not because stability is frightening in itself, but because of what stability would require of you, what it would reveal, what it would demand. If you achieve true inner stability, you would have no more excuses. The chaos you've been navigating, the drama you've been managing, hush and tea, the dysfunction you've been surviving, all of it has served as a convenient explanation for why you're not fully stepping into your power. I'll do that when things settle down. I'll pursue that dream when I'm in a better place. I'll become who I'm meant to be once I'm healed. But what if you're more healed than you're admitting? What if you're ready now, and the instability is the last protection against having to show up fully? Inner stability would mean taking full responsibility for your life. No more blaming circumstances, other people, or your past. Just you, sovereign and accountable, creating your reality through your choices. That level of ownership is terrifying because it means you can no longer hide behind victimhood, no matter how legitimate your wounds have been. There's also the identity crisis that stability threatens. Who are you without your struggles? So much of your self-concept has been built around surviving, healing, overcoming. If you're no longer the wounded one, the helper, the sensitive soul learning to cope, then who are you? The unknown version of yourself waiting on the other side of healing feels like a stranger. And there's grief in releasing the familiar self, even when that self has been suffering. You fear judgment too. What if the full expression of your power is too much? What if people reject the confident, boundaried, self-assured version of you? What if you lose people when you stop accommodating, stop shrinking, stop managing everyone's comfort? The fear of isolation keeps you small, because at least when you're small, people need you. And perhaps most profoundly, you fear the magnitude of what you might be capable of creating if you weren't spending all your energy managing chaos. Your power, fully unleashed and grounded in stability, is vast. The question is, are you ready to find out just how vast? As Joseph Campbell wrote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." Your fear is pointing directly at your freedom. The journey toward inner stability begins with a return, not to a place you've been before, but to a place you've always carried within you, a place you left behind somewhere along the way when the world convinced you that you needed to be anywhere but here. Anyone but yourself. Coming home to yourself is the foundation upon which everything else is built, and it starts with a radical act, self-witnessing without judgment. Most of your life, you've been watching yourself through a critical lens, 2i19, measuring yourself against impossible standards, narrating your experience with harsh commentary. I shouldn't feel this way. What's wrong with me? I should be further along by now. But self-witnessing is different. It's the practice of observing yourself with the same gentle curiosity you'd offer a beloved friend. It's noticing what you're feeling without immediately trying to fix it, change it, or shame yourself for it. PT 219. This requires developing a relationship with yourself as though you were someone worth knowing deeply. Most people are strangers to themselves. They know their surface preferences and daily routines, but they've never sat with themselves long enough to understand the landscape of their inner world. You must become intimately acquainted with yourself. What makes you feel safe? What activates your nervous system? What are the stories you tell yourself in moments of stress? What do you need when you're overwhelmed? The practice is deceptively simple. Check in with yourself throughout the day. Pause and ask, how am I actually feeling right now? Not how you should feel, not how you wish you felt, how you actually feel. Then drop into your body. Where is that feeling living? Is there tension in your chest, tightness in your throat, heaviness in your belly? Your body holds truth that your mind often obscures, and learning its language is essential. This is where somatic awareness becomes crucial. For too long, you've lived primarily in your head, analyzing and intellectualizing your emotions. But emotions are embodied experiences. Anxiety lives in your racing heart and shallow breath. Sadness settles in your chest like stones. Anger burns in your solar plexus. Peace softens your shoulders and deepens your breath. When you learn to feel safe in your own body, to breathe into sensation rather than away from it, you create the first level of inner stability, a sense of home in your own skin. But there's an important distinction to make here. This isn't spiritual bypassing. This isn't toxic positivity dressed up as mindfulness. You're not pretending everything is fine or forcing yourself into premature forgiveness. You're simply practicing presence, being with what is exactly as it is, without the added suffering of resistance. This is the foundation. Before you can build your sanctuary, you must learn to inhabit yourself fully. You must become the home you've been searching for outside yourself, and that begins now with this breath, with this moment of choosing to come back to yourself again and again. If coming home to yourself is the foundation, then boundaries are the walls of your sanctuary. Not walls to keep you isolated, but walls that define where you end and others begin. Boundaries are the garden gates that allow nourishing connection in while keeping violation out. For emotionally intelligent women, boundaries feel almost impossible. Your natural empathy makes you porous. You absorb what others feel, sense what they need, and your instinct is to respond, to help, to accommodate. The idea of saying no feels cruel when you can feel someone's disappointment so acutely. But here's the truth you must embrace. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're the ultimate act of self-love, and, paradoxically, the foundation of genuine intimacy. Without boundaries, you cannot truly connect. You can only merge and lose yourself. Without boundaries, your relationships become transactional exchanges where you give endlessly and receive scraps. Without boundaries, you become a resource to be extracted rather than a person to be honored. The guilt you feel around boundaries wasn't born in you. It was taught to you, perhaps by parents who expected you to manage their emotions, perhaps by a culture that tells women their value lies in their capacity for endless nurturing, perhaps by relationships where your needs were treated as inconvenient. But that guilt is not truth, it's conditioning, and you have permission to release it. Setting boundaries requires first identifying where they're needed. Conduct an energy audit. Who leaves you feeling depleted after every interaction? What situations consistently overwhelm your nervous system? What requests make you say yes with your mouth while everything inside you screams no? These are your boundary indicators, your system's way of showing you where protection is needed. There are different types of boundaries, and you need them all. Physical boundaries govern your body, your personal space, your touch. Emotional boundaries protect your feelings from being dismissed or your energy from being drained. Mental boundaries preserve your right to your own thoughts and beliefs. Time boundaries honor that your hours are finite and precious. Spiritual boundaries safeguard your values and your inner peace. The language of boundaries can be simple. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I need time to think about it. I can't take that on right now. You don't owe lengthy explanations or justifications. A boundary is a statement of what is, not an invitation to negotiation. And yes, there will be pushback. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist your evolution. They'll call you selfish. They'll guilt trip you. They'll test whether you really mean it. This is where your resolve resolve must be stronger than their discomfort. Their reaction to your boundary is not your responsibility to manage. It's information about whether they respect you. Remember the Stoic wisdom of Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot control how others respond to your boundaries, but you can control whether you maintain them. And in that maintenance, you reclaim your energy, your peace, yourself. Boundaries aren't walls. They're the architecture of self-respect. They're how you teach the world how to treat you. They're how you protect the sanctuary you're building within. Inner stability isn't a destination you reach once and remain it forever. It's a daily practice, a commitment you make to yourself each morning and honor throughout the day. It's built through small, consistent rituals that signal to your nervous system, you are safe, you are held, you are home. Begin your morning with intention rather than reaction. Before you reach for your phone, before you're pulled into the demands and noise of the world, give yourself a few sacred moments. Place your hand on your heart and take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, what do I need today? How do I want to feel? This simple act of checking in before checking out into the world sets the tone for everything that follows. You're choosing to be the author of your day rather than a character in everyone else's story. Mindful breathing is your most accessible tool for nervous system regulation, and it's available to you always. When anxiety rises, when overwhelm threatens, when you feel yourself disconnecting from your body, return to your breath. Try box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4, or extend your exhale longer than your inhale to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest mode that counteracts stress. Your breath is the bridge between your conscious and unconscious, and learning to work with it is learning to work with your entire system. Journaling becomes your emotional processing system, the place where the chaos in your mind finds order on the page. You don't need elaborate prompts or perfect prose. You need honesty. Write what you're feeling without censoring. Ask yourself questions. What am I avoiding feeling right now? What truth am I not speaking? What do I need to release? Let your hand move without your inner critic interfering. This practice creates distance between you and your emotions, allowing you to witness them rather than be consumed by them. Movement is medicine for the emotionally intelligent woman. Your emotions live in your body, and when they become stuck, movement releases them. This doesn't require intense workouts. Sometimes a gentle walk, flowing yoga, or dancing alone in your room is exactly what your system needs. Let your body express what words cannot. Shake out the tension, stretch into the tightness, move the energy that's been stagnant. Your evening ritual is equally sacred. This is when you consciously release the day before it follows you into sleep. Perhaps you light a candle and spend 5 minutes in silence. Perhaps you write down 3 things you're grateful for, training your mind to notice beauty, even in difficult days. Perhaps you do a body scan meditation, thanking each part of yourself for carrying you through. This isn't about forcing positivity, it's about closure, about completing the day's emotional cycle, so you're not carrying unprocessed energy into tomorrow. Create physical space that supports your inner peace. Your environment affects your nervous system more than you realize. Designate a corner of your home as your sanctuary, a space that's calm, beautiful, yours. Fill it with things that soothe you, soft textures, meaningful objects, plants, gentle light. When you enter this space, your system learns, here we rest. Honor that your needs change seasonally. Winter calls for more rest and introspection. Spring invites renewal and emergence. Summer energizes expansion. Autumn requests release and harvest. Don't force the same practices year-round. Flow with your natural rhythms. The power isn't in the perfection of these practices, it's in the consistency. Even 5 minutes daily creates more stability than an hour once a month. You're training your system, and training requires repetition. Show up for yourself again and again, and watch how everything begins to shift. Stoicism often gets misunderstood as emotional suppression, as cold detachment from feeling. But true Stoic philosophy is not about numbing yourself, it's about mastering yourself. And for the emotionally intelligent woman, these ancient teachings offer a framework for channeling your depth into wisdom rather than drowning in it. At the heart of Stoicism lies the dichotomy of control, a deceptively simple concept with profound implications. There are things within your control and things beyond it. Your thoughts, your responses, your values, your effort. These belong to you. Other people's opinions, outcomes, circumstances, the past, these do not. The emotionally intelligent woman often suffers because she takes responsibility for things outside her dominion. You feel responsible for others' emotions, for situations you didn't create, for outcomes you cannot determine. Stoicism invites you to release what was never yours to carry and focus your power where it actually exists. Then there's amor fati, the love of fate, not passive resignation, but active acceptance of your life exactly as it has unfolded. every wound, every betrayal, every moment of being misunderstood? What if these weren't obstacles to your path, but the path itself? What if your sensitivity developed precisely because of what you endured, refined in the fire of your experience? Amor Fati asks you to embrace your story completely, to say yes to all of it, because fighting with reality only creates additional suffering beyond what the situation itself requires. The Stoics understood the discipline of perception, that events themselves are neutral, and suffering comes from the meaning we assign them. Someone's silence doesn't inherently mean rejection. That's the story you're telling. A setback isn't inherently a failure. That's the interpretation you're choosing. This doesn't mean denying pain or forcing positive thinking. It means recognizing that you have agency in how you perceive your experience, and that agency is a form of freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the inner citadel, the fortress of your mind that no external circumstance can breach unless you open the gates. Your thoughts are your domain. Your inner world is your sovereignty. No matter what chaos surrounds you, you always have the choice of what you do with your own mind. For you, combining Stoic principles with emotional intelligence creates something powerful. You don't suppress your feelings. You feel them fully and then consciously choose your response. You don't numb your empathy. You direct it wisely. You honor your emotions without being ruled by them. You acknowledge your pain without building your identity around it. This is the Stoic heart, strong enough to feel everything, wise enough to be destroyed by nothing. While Stoic philosophy offers structure and discipline, there's another dimension of wisdom that's equally essential: the feminine path of intuition, the ancient knowing that lives in your body, in your womb, in the parts of you that society has tried to silence. For centuries, patriarchal culture has dismissed feminine intuition as irrational, emotional, unreliable. Logic and reason were elevated as superior, while the inner knowing that women have always possessed was diminished as mere feeling or imagination. But your intuition isn't lesser than logic. It's a different form of intelligence, one that processes information faster and more holistically than your conscious mind can track. The challenge for emotionally intelligent women is distinguishing between anxiety and intuition. Both speak in feelings, both create sensations in your body, but they have different signatures. Anxiety is loud, frantic, repetitive. It spins in circles and catastrophizes. Intuition is quiet, calm, clear. It simply knows, often without explanation. Anxiety says, "What if everything goes wrong?" Intuition says, "This isn't right for you." Learning to discern between these voices is essential. Strengthening your intuitive connection requires practices that quiet the mental noise and drop you into deeper awareness. Meditation creates space for intuition to speak. Time in nature reconnects you to ancient rhythms your modern life has obscured. Silence, true silence, not just reduced noise, allows subtle knowing to surface. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities for accessing your deepest wisdom. Your womb, whether you've birthed children or not, is a center of feminine wisdom. In Eastern traditions, the second chakra, located in the womb space, is understood as a source of creative power and intuitive knowing. This isn't metaphor. Your body holds intelligence. When something feels wrong, on your gut, that's your enteric nervous system communicating. When your heart knows before your head understands, that's your cardiac intelligence speaking. The archetype of the wise woman invites you to integrate all parts of yourself, the logical and intuitive, the structured and flowing, the disciplined and wild. You don't have to choose between your analytical mind and your intuitive body. You can honor both, allowing masculine structure to support feminine flow. Your intuition has been guiding you all along. The question is, are you finally ready to trust it? There's a fear that whispers as you approach inner stability. If I find peace, will I stop growing? If I'm no longer driven by pain, will I lose my edge, my creativity, my passion? Will stability make me boring, complacent, ordinary? This fear misunderstands the nature of true stability entirely. Inner stability is not emotional flatness. It's not the absence of feeling or the end of intensity. It's not a beige existence of perpetual calm, where nothing moves you anymore. That's not stability. That's numbness, and they are fundamentally different experiences. Stability is the ground beneath your feet that allows you to reach higher, dance more freely, take bigger risks. It's the root system that enables the tree to grow taller, to weather storms, to bear fruit. Without roots, the tree doesn't fly. It topples. Without inner stability, you don't experience more freedom. You experience more chaos. Think of it this way. When you're constantly managing internal turbulence, most of your energy goes toward just staying afloat. You're treading water, surviving, coping. But when you've cultivated inner stability, that same energy becomes available for creation, for genuine passion, for pursuits that light you up, rather than just distract you from pain. The difference between growth from stability versus growth from chaos is profound. Chaos-driven change is reactive, desperate, often self-sabotaging. You're running from something rather than moving toward something. You make decisions from fear, from wound, from the frantic need to feel different than you feel. This kind of growth is exhausting and rarely sustainable because it's built on an unstable foundation. Growth from stability, however, is intentional, aligned, and sustainable. You're not growing because you hate where you are. You're growing because you're called towards something. You're expanding from fullness rather than trying to fill an emptiness. This is the paradox. You must be grounded to truly fly. Consider the women who found their greatest creative expression, their most impactful work, their deepest love after finding inner stability. They didn't become less. They became more authentic, more courageous, more powerful. Their art deepened because it came from truth rather than trauma. 9. Their relationships strengthened because they could show up whole rather than seeking completion. Their impact expanded because they were giving from overflow rather than depletion. Stability isn't the end of your story. It's not even the middle. It's the foundation from which your real story, the one you came here to live, finally begins. Everything changes when you approach relationships from a place of inner stability. The entire dynamic shifts. What you attract, what you tolerate, how you show up, what you're willing to accept, and what you're willing to walk away from. When you're grounded in yourself, you stop attracting chaos disguised as chemistry. You begin to recognize the difference between genuine connection and the adrenaline rush of instability that you used to mistake for passion. The emotionally unavailable partner who once seemed mysterious now just seems unavailable. I'm 10. The friend who only calls when they need something now reveals themselves as extractive rather than reciprocal. Your stable nervous system can finally perceive what your dysregulated one couldn't see. From this centered place, you communicate differently. You can express your needs clearly and lovingly without the charge of desperation or the edge of resentment. You can say, I need more emotional presence in this relationship without making it an ultimatum born from accumulated pain. You can ask for what you want without apologizing for wanting it. Your requests come from clarity rather than reactivity, and this changes how they're received. You also hold space for others differently now. You can be present to someone's pain without absorbing it as your own. You can offer empathy without taking responsibility for their healing. You can love someone deeply while recognizing that their journey is theirs to walk. This is the end of codependency and the beginning of true interdependence. Two whole people choosing each other, not two halves trying to complete themselves through union. The challenging part is that your stability will change every relationship you're in, and not everyone will welcome this change. People who were comfortable with the old version of you, the one who had porous boundaries, who prioritized their needs over your own, who could be guilted or manipulated, will resist the new version. Some relationships won't survive your evolution, and while this is painful, it's also necessary. You cannot remain small to keep others comfortable. 2-19. You cannot abandon yourself to maintain connections with people who only valued the parts of you that served them. Creating conscious partnerships from this grounded place means choosing people who can meet you at your depth. It means romance that's built on genuine compatibility rather than trauma bonding. It means passion that includes peace, intensity that includes safety, depth that includes joy. These relationships don't require you to sacrifice your stability to prove your love. They enhance your stability because they're aligned with who you truly are. In motherhood, your stability becomes the most profound gift you can offer your children. You break generational patterns simply by being regulated yourself. Your children learn that emotions can be felt without being feared, that conflict can be navigated without destruction, that love doesn't require self-abandonment. You model what it looks like to honor yourself while honoring others. And in friendship, you finally give from overflow rather than depletion. You show up because you want to, not because you're afraid of disappointing people. You celebrate your friends' successes without comparing. You're honest about your capacity. These friendships become nourishing rather than draining because they're rooted in mutual respect and genuine care. Your stability doesn't isolate you. It connects you more authentically than you've ever been connected before. For so long, 2-19, you've been searching for your purpose as though it were hidden somewhere outside you, waiting to be discovered through struggle and seeking. You've tried to force clarity from chaos, to extract meaning from confusion, to find direction while standing on shifting ground. But here's what becomes luminously clear. Once you've cultivated inner stability, purpose doesn't emerge from chaos. It emerges from peace. When your nervous system is dysregulated, when you're constantly managing overwhelm, when you're disconnected from yourself, you cannot access your deepest knowing. The voice of your true calling is quiet, and it's drowned out by the noise of survival. But from a place of stability, that voice finally has space to be heard. The question shifts entirely. You stop asking, what should I do with my life? And start asking, who am I my being, because purpose isn't primarily about doing. It's about the quality of presence you bring to everything you touch. It's not one single thing you must find and pursue. It's a way of moving through the world, a frequency you operate on, an essence you embody. For the emotionally intelligent woman, your sensitivity itself is your calling. The world desperately needs what you carry, the capacity to feel deeply, to understand complexity, to hold space for nuance, to see what others miss. In a culture that's becoming increasingly disconnected, polarized, and numb, your emotional intelligence is medicine. You don't have to figure out how to use it. It will use you once you stop fighting it and start honoring it. Your purpose unfolds naturally when you're aligned with yourself. It's not something you construct through force of will. It's something that emerges organically from who you are. The projects that call to you, the people you're drawn to serve, the problems you feel compelled to solve. These aren't random. They're expressions of your essence seeking form in the world. Stable women become leaders, not because they're trying to lead, but because their groundedness naturally draws others. They become healers because their presence itself is healing. They become creators because their inner peace allows inspiration to flow unobstructed. They become teachers because they've learned to transmute their pain into wisdom and their wisdom into service. And here's the beautiful truth. Your purpose has a ripple effect far beyond what you can see. When you operate from inner stability, you change the emotional atmosphere of every space you enter. Your peace gives others permission to access their own. Your boundaries teach others about self-respect. Your authenticity invites others into honesty. You become a living example that another way is possible. This is your legacy, not what you accomplish or accumulate, but who you are and how that presence affects everyone fortunate enough to encounter you. Your purpose isn't out there waiting to be found. It's in here, waiting to be lived. Inner stability isn't a summit you reach and plant your flag upon, declaring victory forever. It's not a problem you solve once and never revisit. It's a practice, a daily return, a commitment you renew with yourself each morning and honor through each season of your life. There will be days when you lose your center, days when old patterns resurface, when anxiety grips you unexpectedly, when you find yourself people-pleasing or overthinking or absorbing emotions that aren't yours. And in those moments, you might feel like you've failed, like all your progress was an illusion, like you're back at square one. But here's the crucial difference. Now you have tools, you have awareness, you have a foundation to return to. You haven't lost your stability, you've temporarily misplaced your connection to it, and you know the way back. The breathing practice that regulates your nervous system, the boundary language that protects your energy, the self-compassion that meets your humanness with kindness rather than criticism, the journal where you process what's moving through you. These aren't band-aids, they're the architecture of your resilience. Different seasons of your life will require different practices. Winter months might call for more rest, more inward focus, deeper solitude. Summer might invite expansion, connection, outward expression. Periods of grief will require gentler practices than periods of joy. Honoring these natural rhythms rather than forcing consistency is its own form of wisdom. Your stability isn't rigid, it's responsive. Community becomes essential for sustaining this work. You cannot do this alone, and you were never meant to. Find your people, the ones who understand this journey, who are committed to their own inner work, who can hold space for your full humanity without trying to fix or diminish you. Whether it's a trusted therapist, a women's circle, a spiritual community, or friendships rooted in depth, surround yourself with witnesses who reflect your wholeness back to you. Know when to seek support. There's no prize for doing everything yourself. Sometimes you need professional guidance to navigate trauma that's beyond your capacity to process alone. Sometimes you need a coach to help you see blind spots. Sometimes you need medicine, whether that's therapy, bodywork, or pharmaceutical support for your nervous system. Asking for help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Practice self-compassion when you stumble. You're allowed to have hard days. You're allowed to feel unstable sometimes. You're allowed to be a work in progress while simultaneously being whole. These aren't contradictions. They're the paradox of being human. Celebrate how far you've come. Look back at who you were a year ago, 5 years ago. Notice what you no longer tolerate, what no longer destabilizes you, how much more capacity you have now. This isn't about comparing yourself to others. It's about honoring your own evolution. Gratitude becomes the practice that sustains all other practices. Grateful for your sensitivity, grateful for your journey, grateful for your choice to keep returning to yourself. And now we arrive at the truth that's been waiting beneath everything else, the realization that changes how you see your entire journey. You were never broken. You were never too much or too sensitive or too anything. You were never incomplete, damaged, or in need of fundamental repair. You weren't seeking something you didn't have. You were removing what was covering your natural state, the conditioning, the trauma responses, the false beliefs, the patterns that developed to protect you but ended up imprisoning you. Beneath all of that, your wholeness has been here all along, patient and unchanging, waiting for you to remember. Your emotional intelligence was never the problem. It was your greatest gift, waiting to be claimed rather than apologized for. All those years you spent thinking something was wrong with you. You were simply a sensitive soul trying to survive in environments that couldn't honor your depth. You adapted brilliantly. You developed strategies that kept you safe. And now, you're learning that you no longer need those protections because you've become your own sanctuary. The journey from chaos to peace has actually been the journey from self-abandonment to self-return. Every time you prioritized everyone else's needs over your own, you left yourself. Every time you dimmed your light to make others comfortable, you abandoned yourself. Every time you ignored your intuition to please someone else, you betrayed yourself. And the instability you felt wasn't a personal failing. It was your soul's way of saying, come back, come home, return to yourself. Now you understand that coming home doesn't mean you've arrived at some final destination. It means you've learned the way back to yourself when you inevitably wander. At teen, it means you've developed the capacity to notice when you're disconnected and the tools to reconnect. It means you've built an inner sanctuary that no external circumstance can destroy. Honor every version of yourself that brought you here. The woman who survived by people pleasing, she kept you safe. The woman who overthought everything, she was trying to protect you. The woman who chose chaos, she was doing the best she could with what she knew. They were all necessary. They were all you doing the sacred work of becoming. The invitation now is simple and profound to choose yourself, not once, but daily. Choose your peace over their comfort. Choose your truth over their approval. Choose your needs as worthy of the same care you've given everyone else. Choose to believe that your sensitivity is strength, your depth is gift, your need for stability is wisdom. You're not alone in this. Millions of women are walking this same path, learning to honor their emotional intelligence, building their inner sanctuaries, choosing themselves, after lifetimes of choosing everyone else. You are part of something larger, a collective awakening of feminine wisdom, reclaiming its power. The world needs your stability. It needs your peace. It needs your grounded, embodied, emotionally intelligent feminine power. And now, dear one, if you're willing, let's complete this journey together with a moment of rest, a moment to integrate everything you've encountered, everything you've remembered, everything that's shifted within you. If it feels safe, gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Unclench your jaw. Release the tension you've been holding in places you didn't even realize you were holding it. Take a deep breath in through your nose, filling your belly, your chest, your entire being with air, and release it slowly, letting everything you've been carrying today flow out with that exhale. Again, breathe in peace. Breathe out everything that isn't yours to hold. Bring your awareness to your body, starting from the crown of your head. Notice any tightness, any holding, and breathe softness into those spaces. Your forehead, release it. Your eyes, let them rest. Your neck and shoulders, so much weight carried here, let it go now. Your heart space, it's been working so hard, feeling so much. Place your hand there if you'd like. Thank it for its capacity, its courage, its willingness to stay open. Move down through your belly, your hips, your legs, all the way to your feet. Feel yourself supported. The ground beneath you is holding you. You don't have to hold yourself together right now. You can let go. You can rest. And as you breathe, let these truths settle into your bones. You are safe. Right here, right now, in this moment. You are safe. You are whole. Nothing missing, nothing broken. Exactly as you are. You are whole. You are enough. Not when you accomplish more. Not when you heal more. Not when you become more. Right now, you are enough. Your sensitivity is your strength. The depth you feel is not a flaw. It's your power, your medicine, your gift to this world. Your need for inner stability is sacred. You're not weak for craving peace. You're wise. You're not avoiding life. You're preparing to live it fully. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to receive. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to choose yourself. Imagine now your inner sanctuary. That space within you that no chaos can touch. See it, feel it, know it. This place is always here. You can return to it whenever you need. It lives in your breath, in your awareness, in your choice to come home to yourself. Rest now, beautiful soul. You've done enough. You are enough. Let yourself be held by this truth as you drift into the peace you've been seeking. You were never lost. You were just finding your way home. And here you are. Welcome back. Welcome home.